Hello. In today's video, I will talk about the moon, which is card 18 of the Major Arcana. So, how I understand the moon is I think of it as related to the Buddha family, Padma. The energy is passion, the element is fire, and the color is red. I think of the moon card as related to Padma, but I think of it as related to like the neurotic quality of Padma. So the moon card in its upright position is working with emotion, emotional instability, illusions, masks, painful transitions, agony. I think of this card kind of like it's related to lunar cycles, it's related to shadows. I think of it as related to, it's like this feminine neurotic quality where I'm often reminded of like menstruation and women going through menstruation and the emotional instability that often comes with that. The fixation on emotion and how things feel in that moment, and the inability sometimes that women have to separate from the emotion and get a wider, bigger perspective. I think about this card in relation to like menstruation and like this kind of feminine neurotic quality, because we're talking about the moon, we're talking about lunar cycles, which often women are on a lunar cycle. They follow, whatever point in the moon that their cycle is on, they normally follow that cycle. And it has this kind of feminine, authentic feminine, more emotion than reason, more feeling than rational kind of thing that I think is often associated with women. And although I know that a lot of people would reject this comparison that I'm making, certainly in my life I have found this to be true to a certain extent, where it's hard for women sometimes to step outside of the feeling of something and go into the thinking place. And so I think of this card as a very feminine kind of quality, feminine neurotic quality. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I need to defend myself, especially in this time. But I'm putting it out there. This is my feeling of it. This is how I understood it. This is how I understand, having, how many sisters do I have? Having 12 sisters. Many stepmothers, many friends. I see these differences between women and men. And when I see the neurotic quality of women, it tends to come out in this overly emotional way, especially when they're relating to this particular energy, when they're relating to the Padma energy. It seems to come out as overly emotional, as irrational, as feeling more than thinking. Um, yeah. I keep like, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this video because I know the feminists and the feminist movement is gonna be like, aha, that I'm saying this about women, but it's true. I know for myself, especially when I'm going through uh, menstruation, it's like, or pregnancy, right? Like I think about it as like related to like pregnancy, and of course that is all related to cycles and the moon and cycles of pregnancy and birth and all of that kind of stuff is certainly related to the moon and related to a woman's cycle. And I know that I can certainly get caught up in emotion, especially during menstruation or pregnancy, where uh, later on you can be like, oh my gosh, I was so wrapped up in emotion that I couldn't see outside of it. I couldn't see through it. And so I think of this kind of like the moment when someone is shrouded in emotion, shrouded in, the emotion of the feeling of their own experience of in that moment kind of a place. In its reversed position, this card is actually dealing with the wisdom of this Padma energy. And it's dealing with the aspect of Padma wisdom where it's like dispelling illusions and it's working through fear and it's able to be with and work through these things in a very kind of human kind of way. And so this energy, this card, when it's in its reverse position, is working with like the kind of working with the human experience, working with, okay, we're working with emotion, but we're not completely taken over by it. We're using the emotion to inform us of how to work through whatever the situation is that we're facing, whatever fears are arising. We're using the emotion kind of in that way. And so I think about this card in its reverse position as working with that kind of wisdom aspect of the Padma energy. This card went through, so by the time I got to this card, it was no longer 3 iterations. At this point, the card format had come into play. And so going from paper into electronic form was going into card format. And so from here on out, the cards will be working with, okay, it went from paper into, how do I make this into a card? On paper, it was a moon and words, and that was it. Once it went into card format, it went through many changes. There was a moon, there was one woman, kind of the back of her staring at the moon. That didn't feel right. Then, kind of separately, I was developing these dogs, these wolves, like howling at the moon. Maybe that could be a part of it. Then I had these people who I had created they ended up actually in the devil card. And I had been playing with these images of these kind of, they were dancing and they were kind of down in this kind of prostrate position. I always get like prostrate and prostate. Like, wait, no, it's not prostate. Prostrate position. And so there were these women dancing, but that didn't feel quite right. It felt like they needed to be like this bigger image of the women. And the woman you see in the front of the card first appeared, And then she needed a woman, like it felt like she was dancing with someone and doing like this kind of moon dance. And so then the wolves reappeared, and I felt like there needed to be some kind of container for their dance because they felt kind of naked and raw. And so it went through like these different stages of development once it was in electronic form. Once they kind of showed up as they are now, it was, first they showed up and they didn't have any masks, and then something felt kind of incomplete, and so then they like put these masks on, and then it was like, okay, I can rest. They felt kind of revealed or something. It felt like they had revealed themselves. So yeah, that's I feel like that's it. I feel like I'm kind of rambling at this point, but um, I want to thank you for joining me for this card, and the next card will be the sun. Thanks again.